All right, everyone. We're going to get started with our presentation today. I would like to open by welcoming all of you to our special education graduate program webinar today. Please note that this session is being recorded and a link to the recording of this webinar will be sent to you later this week. I've noticed I've gotten a couple of questions from attendees about, am I muted? Can people see me? No, we cannot see you and we cannot hear you. To open, my name is Ashley Pillmore, and I'm one of the Student Success Specialists for Ball State Online, and I will be your host this evening. I will now be turning it over to our other presenters who will be introducing themselves, their role for this evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Micah Terry. I'm also a Student Success Specialist here at Ball State, and I will be co-presenting alongside Ashley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rory Wallace, and I'm a Student Success Specialist, and I will be moderating the chat feature and the Q&A function at today's presentation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diana Wilson. I'm one of the faculty members in the ABA program.
All right, thank you, everyone. Now, some important housekeeping notes for this evening, so please listen carefully. When it comes to the chat feature, that chat is only to be used for technical issues. So please do not use it to have any side conversations or to ask any questions. That chat just needs to be used for any technical issues that you may be experiencing throughout the presentation. As far as questions, at the very end of the presentation, we will be opening it up to answering your questions. And there is actually a Q&A box where you will add in your questions. We kindly ask that this evening that you please hold your questions and do not put them into the Q&A box until the very end of the presentation when we open it up. Because if you're spending time putting your questions into that box, you may miss some really, really important information or information that you wanted to know. So please kindly hold all of those questions until the end. And we will do our best to answer as many questions as we can in the time that we have. And any additional questions that are not answered this evening, you are more than welcome and encouraged to reach out to your student success specialist, and we'll get those questions answered for you as soon as we can. So to start, it's time to meet your student success specialists. But before I start naming them off, I get this question a lot from a lot of my prospective students is, what is a student success specialist? What do you do? So I kind of like to say that we are advisors with a little something extra. So yes, we are there to answer our students' questions through email, telephone, tell them what to register for, but we're also there to support our students during the program and even during those challenging times. So maybe you need a little additional support. Maybe you need some resources, things like that. So we're also a part of that as well. So we do play that advisor role, but like I said, a little something extra there. So I'm going to begin by helping you find who your student success specialist is. So each one of us, we have a certain part of the alphabet, or what we call the alpha split. So with Rory Wallace, he will be assisting prospective students with last names A through C. Micah Terry will be assisting prospects with last names D through HE. Sadie Anderson, who could not be with us this evening, will be assisting students with last names from HI through ME. Myself, I assist students with last names MI through SC. And then we have Mandy Lowe, who also is not with us this evening, but she will be assisting prospects with last names SE through Z. Now, don't feel like you have to quickly write down all of this information. I will make sure at the very end of the presentation to put up this slide so that you can take down your specific student success specialist contact information. Also, too, it's important to note that we will be following up with you after this presentation just to see if there are any additional questions or concerns that you have. But also feel free to reach out to us as well. So as far as today's agenda, the items that we're going to be focusing on today is the fee waiver for attending this webinar, what Ball State University offers its online graduate students. We'll be talking about a couple of our special education graduate programs that many of you have showed interest in. We will also be covering very briefly the board certified behavior analyst exam requirements for those who are interested in pursuing that route. We will also be covering tuition costs and financial aid, which we get many questions about from prospective students. And we will also be covering admission requirements and application deadlines as well. So that application fee waiver, everyone. So you will see bolded, this is the text that you will need to include on your application where a fee waiver is mentioned. So the fee waiver text is as follows. It is DOSL special ed webinar 10/6/2021. So as I mentioned, for attending this webinar, you are eligible for an application fee waiver, and this fee waiver can be applied to spring, summer, and fall 2022 applications.
Since you're attending this webinar tonight, one of the questions you may be asking yourself is, what does Ball State have to offer? One of the things that we have is that we offer individual plans of study to give you flexibility. So no matter the program you're interested in, one of your student success specialists can help you create an individualized plan of study that'll meet your needs as well as the requirements of the program. We are also 100% online and asynchronous. What asynchronous means is that you do not have to log on to attend class at a set time, but rather you have the flexibility to log on throughout the week. We are semester-based, so there will still be assignments due each week, but that gives you a lot more flexibility than attending class live in a synchronous format. We also offer an applied approach, which gives you the chance to practice what you learn while you gain knowledge. And our faculty does not just lecture you, but also presents you with opportunities to go into the field and apply what you have learned. Ball State University, our Teachers College, and the Department of Special Education are nationally recognized for excellence. On this page, we wanted to offer some testimonials from some of our former students. Brianna Meyer, who was in the program, explains that she particularly liked applied behavior analysis because it is an evidence-based practice. So it has been researched time and time again. It has been shown to be effective in behavior change. Carly Shepard, who was in our program, stated that the ABA program presented her with a different view on the functions of each child's behaviors. She was able to understand why certain behaviors occurred and think of proactive ways to decrease the chances that they would happen. Now, even though our programs are online, you do have a lot of supports available to you as an online graduate student. Our academic support services, we have our student success specialists like myself, as well as our faculty that you can reach out to at any time throughout the program. Disability services available, our learning center, university libraries, as well as our writing center, where you can get tutoring or assistance with writing, researching, things of that nature. We also have student support services, such as our online Canvas advising communities, where we can post announcements relative to your program, as well as different pages and modules that can provide you with information along the way. We have our Career Center, as well as our Counseling Center and Multicultural Center.
The next thing we'll cover is here at Ball State University, we are a national hub for ABA and special education, offering various programs to meet your personal and professional needs as well as interests. So you will see that we have our master's in applied behavior analysis, as well as our master's in special education. And then you'll see around that we have a number of graduate certificates that you may also be interested in pursuing. So we have our graduate certificate in applied behavior analysis, response to intervention, emotional and behavioral disorders, autism, American Sign Language and Deaf Studies, disabilities for post-secondary settings with an emphasis in autism. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to note to all of you, maybe some of you are just interested in pursuing just one of our graduate certificate programs, but note that by pursuing a graduate certificate, you are actually halfway to a master's degree. So something to consider moving forward, something to even discuss with your student success specialists. We're going to begin by talking about the Master of Arts in Applied Behavior Analysis. So with this program, like Micah mentioned, with all of our programs here, they are offered 100% online with courses being asynchronous. So our Master of Arts in Applied Behavior Analysis is a 30-credit program, 10 courses total. And if students go straight through the program, taking at least 2 courses a semester every semester, that includes fall, spring, and summer, not taking any breaks, students can complete this program in as little as 20 months, so a little under 2 years. As far as, students that we see that apply to this particular program, we are finding students coming from various educational backgrounds, including psychology, criminal justice, social work, education, and many, many other areas. This is also the first program in the state of Indiana to offer the master's in ABA with an emphasis in autism, and is actually one of the largest programs in the nation, something that we are extremely proud of here at Ball State. Also with this program, for those of you that are interested in sitting for the BCBA exam, this will provide you with both the degree and the coursework needed to sit for that exam. Also, something important to note, just because we do get these questions a lot, for this master's program, there is no master's thesis or dissertation that is required. And also, it is important to note, pursuing the master's in applied behavior analysis will not lead to an initial teaching license. So if you have any questions about pursuing an initial teaching license, please follow up with your student success specialist about that. We also want to take just a little bit of time to talk about the BCBA requirements. So prior to applying for the BACB certification, individuals must meet 3 primary requirements. So you'll see those below. You must have an acceptable master's degree from an accredited institution, which is something that we provide. Completion of a verified course sequence, which we have here at Ball State, and it is also provided. And then the completion of all required supervised field work. Now, as you will see, it is important for you to note, for those that are interested in pursuing this particular route, the supervised field work is not a part of any of our programs. And this is something that has to be done independently. And it is also the responsibility of the student to secure their own approved site and BCBA supervisor. Another important thing to note, as far as passing the BCBA exam, something to also discuss with your student success specialist. For some states, just because you pass the BCBA exam does not mean that you can be licensed in your state, because some states have additional requirements. So if you're interested in learning more about that, please follow up with your student success specialist. In closing, if you have any additional questions about the requirements for sitting for this exam or the requirements for your state, like I said, please contact your student success specialist, because due to our limited time today, we will not be able to answer any additional questions pertaining to these requirements. So this will be something that you will need to follow up with your student success specialist about.
Moving on, the next program we'll cover is our Master of Arts in Special Education. Just as with the Master's in Applied Behavior Analysis, this is a 30 credit hour program and is also 100% online. Again, if you're taking at least 2 courses per semester, it can be completed in less than 2 years. With this program, you may be eligible to transfer up to 9 credits of eligible coursework upon review of your transcripts and approval from both our Department of Special Education and the graduate school. This program also does not require a master's thesis or a dissertation, and students are able to either select a focus area from one of our graduate certificate programs, or if they already possess a teaching license, they can do one of our license editions. You do have to have a license, active teaching license, and complete a license evaluation to be able to do one of the license add-ons. The first area are the focus areas. So if you do not have an active teaching license, but you want to do the Master's in Special Education, you can look at one of our graduate certificate programs, or potentially more than one, as your focus area. As mentioned previously, we have graduate certificates in Applied Behavior Analysis, Autism, Disabilities for Post-Secondary Settings, Emotional and Behavior Disorders, Multi-Tier System of Supports, Response to Intervention, and American Sign Language and Deaf Studies. Please note that with these certificates, they do not lead to initial licensure. Now, if you do have an active teaching license, you can use our Master's in Special Education to add on to your license in a number of different areas. We offer add-on licenses in Director of Exceptional Needs, Early Childhood Special Education, Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Intense Interventions, and Mild Interventions. Again, you must hold an active teaching license to do one of these options because they do not lead to that initial licensure. If you are looking at one of the license editions, there is a 2-step admissions process. So the first thing you would do is request a license evaluation through the Office of Teacher Education Services. And then you would also complete a graduate school application for the licensure program. So even if you've applied for the Master's in Special Education, you would still want to apply for the license edition you're seeking as well. And the same would go for the graduate certificates. If you're adding one of those, you would apply for them separately along with your Master's in Special Education.
We're going to take this opportunity to talk about 2 of our graduate certificates here at Ball State. So we're going to begin with the graduate certificate in Applied Behavior Analysis. With this program, students receive 15 credits of specialized training in the practice of ABA, and this program comprises of 5 courses. Now, as we mentioned previously, this can be incorporated into the Master's in Special Education, or it can be added on, the certificate can be added on to the Master's in Applied Behavior Analysis. Also, too, it can just be earned independently of a master's to demonstrate a concentration area. But keep in mind, for those of you that are interested in sitting for the BCBA exam, you must have a master's degree in order to sit for that exam. So if you currently do not have a master's degree and you're wanting, you're needing that master's degree as well as the coursework needed to sit for that BCBA exam, then you're going to want to go for a master's in Applied Behavior Analysis. Also, too, something that I want to kind of touch on, too, for those that are interested in sitting for the BCBA exam. So for those of you that already hold a master's degree and you're wanting to use the certificate to obtain the coursework needed to sit for that exam, please note it would require you to take all 7 of the courses listed, so 21 credits total. So to just kind of reiterate, if you're interested in just obtaining the certificate itself, it is 15 credits total, 5 classes. If you are interested in obtaining the coursework needed to sit for the BCBA exam, then you will need to take all 7 of the classes listed, which would come to a total of 21 credits. Also, too, important to note, and this is for all of our certificates, if you are just pursuing a certificate-only program, We cannot transfer any credits in from another institution. So all the classes must be taken here at Ball State. Also, we're going to be talking about the certificate in autism. So with our certificate of autism, individuals will be receiving 15 credits of specialized training and working with individuals with an ASD diagnosis, which is one of the fastest growing disability groups. Once again, with it being a 15 credit program, it is 5 courses total. This can also be incorporated into the Master's in Special Education or added on to the Master's in Applied Behavior Analysis program. Or students can add 15 credits of core elementary education courses to complete a Master's in Elementary Education. And I'm sure many of you have been waiting for this part of our presentation. How much will this program cost me? So you'll see in the table above, this is a breakdown of, what you can expect to pay for these programs. So you'll see it is broken down into Indiana residents and out-of-state residents. So I'm going to begin with our Indiana residents. As far as tuition goes, it is $456 per credit. And it is important to note in that $456 per credit that this includes the $25 online course fee. So if you've taken a peek at our tuition calculator, you'll notice that. There is also a technology fee that is tacked on each semester that you are enrolled in courses. So if you are enrolled in up to 6 credits, it will be $110 per semester. If you are enrolled in 7 or more credits, it will be $168 per semester for you. Moving on to our out-of-state residents, it is $671 per credit. Once again, that $25 online course fee is included in that. Once again, if you're taking 0 to 6 credits, your technology fee will be $110 per semester. 7 or more credits, $168 per semester. The rates that you see in the table above pertain to our fall 2021 through summer 2022 academic year. And as an online student, your total cost will include tuition, technology fee, course fee, as well as books and materials. Now, the numbers that you see above, those do not include book fees. So you're going to want to make sure you figure that into your total as well. Also, we are very proud to say that our rates are very competitive when compared to other programs. Another question we get asked is, am I eligible to receive financial aid for the program that I'm wanting to pursue? So it is best, just because student success specialists are not really the best resource for that. We encourage you, if you're interested in determining your financial aid eligibility, that you follow up with our financial aid and scholarships office, who are always willing to help. They can be reached by phone at 765-285-5600. There is also a 1-800 number. So 1-800-227-4017, or you can email them at finaid@bsu.edu. Also, our financial aid and scholarships office has a really great, helpful website out there that can provide you with some additional information, including how to start filling out your FAFSA. Something important to note for those of you that are pursuing master's degrees are eligible for financial aid. For those of you that are interested in pursuing certificate-only programs, please note that certificate-only programs are not eligible for financial aid. So you will have to look into, paying for those courses out of pocket. So our admission requirements, as far as our admission requirements, we are looking for an applicant to at least have a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution. We are looking for them to have at least a 2.75 GPA on a 4.0 scale from their undergrad degree granting institution, or if they can bring in at least 9 credits or more of graduate level coursework that come to at least a 3.0 GPA on a 4.0 scale. And students must, or I should say applicants must be able to provide us with official transcripts from all degree and certificate granting institutions. If you have any questions or concerns about these admission requirements, please follow up with your student success specialist directly to discuss your individual situations. Also, if you do not reside in the United States, please follow up with your student success specialist as well to talk about those requirements. Our admission deadlines are as follows. So for spring 2022, we would need to have all of your application materials in hand no later than Sunday, December 26th, with the start date being January 10th. For summer 2022, we would need to have all of your application materials in no later than Sunday, May 1st, with the first day of classes beginning on May 16th. For fall 2022, all of your application materials will need to be received no later than Sunday, August 7th, with classes beginning on the 22nd, August 22nd. Sorry about that.
The contact information for Ball State Online, which is our primary office, is 1-800-872-0369 or 765-285-1581, and the email address is online@bsu.edu. Again, we wanted to bring the Student Success Specialist page up here, and we'll pause here for a couple moments so you can write down your contact information. Again, we are divided up alphabetically by your last name. So if you have a last name A through C, you can reach out to Rory Wallace. If your last name is D through HE, my name's Micah Terry, and I will be your Student Success Specialist. Sadie Anderson works with students last name HI through ME. Ashley Pillmore will be last name MI through SC. And then finally, Mandy Lowe will be with students last name SE through Z. Again, tonight we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers, but we may not get to all of the questions. So if you do have any questions that you're not able to get answered, feel free to reach out to your Student Success Specialist and we'll cover that with you. We'll leave this slide up for a moment or two so you can write it all down.
While all of you are taking down the information of your specific student success specialist, I also would like to take this opportunity to remind you of some important things regarding working with your student success specialist. So as your student success specialist, we really appreciate when you, stay in communication with us, letting us know what's going on, how we can help you if you're having any issues, any concerns. So for example, if you are an applicant and you are missing materials for your application and maybe you need some additional time getting those, make sure you communicate that to your student success specialist. Just say, hey, I'll get those in as soon as I can. I'm aware. So that way, we can try to assist you, help you stay on track with that. Or maybe you started an application and maybe you started one for spring 2022, but you'd feel a lot better starting with summer 2022. That's perfectly fine. Let us know that, we need to change applications. Also too, sometimes it just happens that maybe you found a different program that's not with Ball State, that's a better fit for you, but you've already started an application. Don't feel bad about reaching out to us and just saying, hey, thank you, but I'm no longer interested in that program, just so we're aware of that. For those of you that are admitted into the programs that you're interested in, Please note that there is a decision reply form that has to be filled out because the university needs to know whether or not you're coming. I know for a lot of my applicants, they are very excited about being accepted, but they want to take some time to think about whether this is really the route they want to pursue, and that's fine. But once again, with that being said, please follow up with your student success specialist. Say, hey, I'm excited to be admitted, but I need a little bit more time to make that decision. And the same goes if you change your mind. You've been admitted, but you're no longer interested in pursuing the program. Once again, reach out to us. Let us know that you're no longer interested, and we'll wish you well in whatever program you're interested in pursuing. Because as always, we want all of you to pursue programs that work best for you and meet your personal and professional needs. All right, so hopefully all of you have had time to take down your student success specialist information. Now we will open up for Q&A with Rory Wallace. So thank you all for your patience and holding on to those questions. So now we'll open it up for you to put your questions in the Q&A, and Rory, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Ashley, very much. Everyone, you can go ahead and submit your questions in the Q&A box. And let's see here, we have some questions coming in. And our first question is, can you take 2 courses a semester? So the question is, and I think I'll pose this to Micah, can a student only go through the program by taking 2 courses per semester only?
Thanks, Rory. Typically, that is most common for students, but there are a couple different avenues you can take. Most students will do 2 courses per semester, and that is required if you're using financial aid to do a minimum of 2. Now, if you're not using financial aid and you wish to go at a slower pace, you can do just 1 course a semester. And the department does not recommend doing more than 2, but it's not prohibited either. But that would be something you would want to discuss on a case-by-case basis with your student success specialist prior to registering for more than 2, because there are some prerequisite considerations and things like that.
Excellent. Thank you, Micah. This next question, I think I'll pose to Ashley. We have a student that's asking about the length of each semester. What does the semester look like at Ball State Online?
Oh, excellent question. So if you are taking typically, sometimes we have classes that only run just a couple weeks during the semester, but for the majority of our classes, if you take those classes during the fall and spring, those classes will run the full 16 weeks. If you take the class during the summer, our summers are accelerated. So instead of getting 16 weeks to complete the course, you get 10. But also too, as far as the length of the class, that is something that once you're admitted to the program and go through your initial advising appointment with your advisor, we can also discuss that as well. Thank you for the question.
Sure thing. I have a few questions about the admissions acceptance rate to our program. So Micah, would you like to talk a little bit about admissions and how that works with students? What's that acceptance rate? What does that look like?
Certainly. With this program, it's not a capped acceptance, so we don't really track a metric of acceptance rate, but rather if you meet the admission requirements, most likely you're going to be admitted. And even if you don't meet the admission requirements, certainly reach out to your student success specialist for some alternate avenues you can pursue with that as well, such as the GRE. But we do not have an actual percentage for the acceptance rate just because we're not a capped program.
Thank you, Micah.
Sure.
Let's see, we have a few questions about international admissions. So we have some questions that are asking about, would my international degree be accepted in the program? Or, my transcripts are in a different language. What do I need to do in order to be accepted into the program if my schooling or my education is from an international country or program?
Thank you for that question. So when it comes to international admissions, with those international transcripts, they will have to go through an evaluation. Also, too, if your education is completely out of the United States, you may have to make sure that you meet an English proficiency requirement. Now, there's a lot that goes into international admissions. So I would say for those of you that are outside the United States, please follow up specifically with your student success specialist to gather more information. Also, we will connect you with the Office of International Admissions, and they are a great resource as far as individuals outside the United States who are wanting to pursue this program here in the United States. So feel free, before reaching out to your student success specialist, definitely check out International Admissions website. If you would like to just go directly to them and connect with them yourself and kind of ask about those requirements, you're more than welcome to do so. But definitely, in those situations, because they are so specific, it would be best that you follow up with your student success specialist. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Ashley. And I think we may have a question for Dr. Wilson here, our faculty representative here from our program. And Dr. Wilson, we have a question about supervision for the BCBA examination and what that looks like and what's involved and what are the requirements for the Masters in ABA pertaining to working in the field.
Excellent. And I'll let Ashley perhaps answer what's required for the actual practicum or for the program and what the practicum class would look like. However, for supervision, it is independent of the university. There is a practicum class that you can take, but the supervision is something that you will set up in your location, wherever you're providing services. Supervision now for the BCBA exam, so there's BCABA, which is bachelor's level, and then the BCBA exam is at either 1,500 hours or 2,000 hours, depending on which path you take. That pathway is arranged with your supervisor. So once you identify a supervisor, you let the university know in your practicum class that you have a supervisor, and then between you and the supervisor, you will determine whether you can do the 1,500, which requires more supervision and essentially is a faster pace, but the general requirements will be 2,000 hours.
Thank you for that, Dr. Wilson, and I will piggyback off of what you said. So for those of you that are pursuing the Master's in Applied Behavior Analysis, if you have looked at the coursework that is required for that particular master's program, you may have noticed that there is a field-based experience course. So you'll see there are two options. Students can choose to take the applied behavior analysis route, which is really looking at ABA, just general ABA for various populations. So if you're an individual who is working with maybe individuals with autism, but maybe other disabilities like Down syndrome, you may be interested in taking that particular field-based experience course. We also have the option of the autism route. So really this particular field-based experience course is more geared towards ABA practices that have shown to be particularly effective when working with the ASD population. So for those of you that, maybe your clientele or your students, they all have an ASD diagnosis, or you're really, really passionate about this particular group of individuals, you may be more interested in taking that route. So as far as the requirements for these courses, now, if your place of employment meets these requirements, you are more than welcome to use your place of employment for this class. So with this, we are looking for you to be at a site where you can log hours, you have access to at least 2 or more individuals, and you have someone to supervise you. An important thing to note about the field-based experience in autism, because the focus is working with individuals with an ASD diagnosis, you must be working with at least 2 or more individuals with an ASD diagnosis for that particular course. Now, for those of you, I get this question a lot, especially from my new students. I'm planning to sit for the BCBA exam and I'm accruing those supervision hours. Can I use the hours accrued in this class to count towards my supervision hours for the BACB? Can what I like to call, can I double dip? Yes, you can. But what you have to be aware of is that your supervisor has to be a BCBA for those to count. For the purposes of our course, just the course, your supervisor does not need to be a BCBA. But if you're wanting those hours to count towards your supervision hours, they have to be a BCBA. Also, the way that you document those hours will be different for both entities. So the BACB is going to ask you to document those hours one way, while the course itself is going to ask you to document those hours for another way. So that's a little bit about the field-based experience course for those of you that wanted to know a little bit more about that.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ashley. Micah, we have a question here from a student who is asking if it's possible to take a semester off if they need it.
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. We all know that life happens and you don't know what's in front of you. As long as you let your student success specialist know, we can always work with that. Taking a semester off as needed. If you're out of the program for more than a year, you would have to apply for readmission. So that's one thing to be mindful of. But even if you're just going to take a semester off, still let your student success specialist know. Check in with financial aid if you're using aid. Just keep all of us aware, but that is definitely an option should something necessitate that.
And Micah, I would like to jump in on that if you don't mind, Rory, is it okay?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Something I would like to add to that, great information, Micah. Something to add, for those of you that are pursuing master's degrees, you have 6 years to complete your master's degree. If you are pursuing a certificate, you have 5 years to complete that certificate. So like Micah said, make sure you are communicating your intentions to your advisor. That way, if they see any problems with what you're doing, we have a chance to kind of alert you to that early, that, oh, you're getting close to, you have to be done, things like that.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Thank you, Ashley and Micah. Ashley, we have a student who is asking, can our student success specialist help us find an approved site and a BCBA supervisor for our supervised fieldwork?
So that is a fair question. Now, please understand, like we mentioned, we are not responsible for placing you at a site or providing you with a BCBA supervisor. So typically, if I get this question from my students, now this seems kind of a throw off answer, but if you're looking for a site, my best recommendation is to actually Google sites in your area. Reach out to them, have a conversation, let them know that, hey, I'm a student at Ball State University. I'm interested in, gaining some supervision hours, things like that. So I would start with a Google search. I tell my students, if you notice that maybe you're having a hard time, you can follow up with me and I can try to provide you with some additional resources. As far as finding a BCBA supervisor in your area, actually the BACB website has a Find a Certificant tab where you can actually look up BCBAs that are willing to supervise in your area. And then it will also give their contact information. So you can reach out to them and see if they'd be willing to supervise you. I've also been told there is remote supervision out there, but I think I saw Dr. Wilson kind of turn her camera on. Dr. Wilson, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I apologize. I was actually going to add that you can do the search on the BACB. And there is remote supervision. What I would caution with the remote supervision, though, is to make sure that whoever is supervising you is licensed in the state at which you are practicing. So just because they are certified doesn't necessarily make them eligible to license you in another, or to supervise you in another state if they aren't also licensed. And there's about 32 states with licensure right now. But I was just going to chime in and add that you can reach out to supervisors on the BACB, and it's a great way to connect.
Thank you, everyone. We have a student here, Micah, who's asking about transcripts. What type of transcripts do we accept for admissions? Can you submit an unofficial transcript or must it be an official transcript?
Excellent question on that. Thank you, Rory. To start the admission process, you can certainly submit your unofficial transcripts. That'll get the ball rolling and allow us to review them for admission. You do need to submit transcripts for all degree granting institutions. But upon acceptance, you would need to, at that point, submit your official transcripts. So you don't need to have official initially, but if you are accepted, then the official final transcripts will be a requirement.
Thank you, Micah. Moving along to our next question, we have a question here. Ashley, this student would like to know, can they begin accruing their practicum hours at the start of the program if they already have their supervisor identified, their BCBA supervisor identified?
Excellent question. If you already have a supervisor, you have a site, you were able to follow the BACB's 2022 fieldwork requirements, you can actually begin accruing those hours as soon as you start taking classes with us. Something that a lot of us do during our initial advising appointments is that we do share that BACB 2022 fieldwork requirements document with you, which I like to call it the big supervision hours document, because it provides you with all of the information that you need to know about the supervision hours. So there's a lot there for you. That's something that the program will share with you so that you have it. Something that I would like to note, because when it comes to the supervision hours, I do notice that a couple of my students will reach out to me asking me questions about their supervision hours. Something important to note. We, for those of you that are pursuing like the master's program with the coursework, here at Ball State, we are just focused on providing you with information and guiding you just on obtaining that degree and getting that required coursework. When it comes to those supervision hours, because they are independent of the program, it is actually going to be your BCBA supervisor who will be there to answer all of your questions and provide you with guidance. So I always tell students, if it pertains to your supervision hours, any question, any and all questions go directly to your supervisor. And then if both of you are not sure, refer back to that document or reach out to the BACB directly.
Wonderful, thank you. Now, Micah, our next question is about the graduate certificates. So we have a student that's asking, are they only able to acquire the graduate certificate with the master's in special education? Or can they also acquire the graduate certificate with their master's in ABA?
Excellent question. Thank you, Rory. Our master's in ABA program, if you look at the courses that make it up, the 10 courses that make up the 30 credits are actually the courses that make up our certificate in ABA, as well as our certificate in autism, with the caveat that you would want to select that specific autism-focused field experience course. If you're just doing the master's in ABA, you can choose either field experience course. But if you're adding the certificate in autism, you would want to select that specific field experience. But our master's in ABA students can add the certificate in ABA, the certificate in autism, or both of them, and it would not require any extra coursework. You're more than welcome to add one of the other certificates as well, but that would lead to additional coursework because those courses do not overlap with the master's in ABA coursework.
Thank you, Micah. And just to tag along to that, if they're adding the certificates to their program, would that push back their graduation date, or would they still be able to graduate on time if they add the ABA or the autism certificates?
With the ABA or autism certificates, because there is no additional coursework required, it would not change your graduation date. Whereas if you were to add on, say, the EBD, emotional behavior disorder certificate, that's additional coursework. Therefore, it would take additional time to complete and push out your date. And again, if you have any questions on this, check with your student success specialist. We can talk about plans of study and how it can potentially affect things as you add certificates onto your program.
Thank you, Micah. And Ashley, we have a question about course load. One of our students have a question about working full-time and taking 2 courses per semester. And do people who work full-time only typically take 2 courses per semester? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Absolutely, I can. Thank you for the question. It's a great one. I would say the majority of the students that I work with are working full-time or close to full-time. And I'm sure that all of us, Rory, Mike, and myself can speak to the fact that it is doable with the 2 courses. So you can anticipate, spending 10 to 15 hours per course per week. So that's why when I get students that are working full-time, I highly recommend that they take no more than 2 courses just because of that course load. Any more than that, I start to get a little concerned. So I would say if you're working full-time or close to it, I would stick with the 2 courses a semester. Just like Micah mentioned, I've had students that have come in that are working full-time or close to it, and they're a little bit hesitant about taking 2 courses at a time. They want to maybe dip their toe in and do one. I just always remind them, if you are planning on utilizing financial aid, you would have to be taking at least 2 or more classes in order to be eligible for the financial aid. But I do have some students that they decide, you know what, I'm just going to stick with one and just pay out of pocket. So like Micah has mentioned, we do offer flexible plans of studies. So maybe you start off with 1 and then maybe you think 2 really works for you. So we are more than happy to work with you on that.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I have a question here that Dr. Wilson can assist with. Oops, I saw that she may have popped off there. Maybe Ashley, you can assist with this question here. Okay, we have a question from a student. What is the pass rate for the BCBA examination?
So the last time that we checked, let's see, I believe for us, our first time pass rate here at Ball State, I believe is about a 63-64% first time pass rate.
Thank you. Now, the next question is, Micah, could you address this? We have a student who's asking if we require the GRE.
Thank you, Rory. That's an excellent question. We do not require the GRE for standard admission. So if you remember back to the slides, what we're looking for is that with your bachelor's degree, in addition to being a regionally accredited institution, you have a GPA of 2.75 or higher. Now, an alternate pathway would be if your GPA falls between 2.5 and 2.74, then you could take the GRE, and that would offer you a chance at probationary admission with a passing GRE score. So we do not require it for standard admission, but if you're in that 2.5 to 2.74 range, then our admissions office would request you submit GRE scores.
Thank you, Micah. Ashley, our next question goes to you. And the question is, if we don't have supervision or supervisors secured right now, can we still complete the Master's in ABA program and complete the supervision at a later date?
Excellent question there. Thank you for that one. So So if you start the program and you don't have a site or supervisor secured, yes, you can most definitely start those supervision hours later, because the great news is, being that the supervision hours are independent of this program, you do not need to have those supervision hours completed in order to complete the master's degree. So I've noticed I have some students that they'll start accruing their hours as soon as they possibly can. I have some students that they want to get a little bit more familiar with the program before they start accruing their hours. So they'll start a little bit later. And then I have some that they just focus on completing the program. And then after that, they worry about the supervision hours. But I always recommend to them, make sure you kind of consider what your timeline is going to look like. How soon do you want to sit for that exam? Great question.
Thank you, Ashley. Micah, our next question for you is, in order to attain the graduate certificate in applied behavior analysis, do I need to have a bachelor's degree first?
Yes, all of these programs that we've discussed, our master's degrees or the certificates, are graduate level. So even if you're just looking at taking one of the certificates, then the requirements would still be the same, that you have that bachelor's degree with a GPA of 2.75 or higher. There are some undergraduate certificates out there on our website, and there's some other student success specialists that work with those programs. But all of these that we've been discussing this evening are graduate level programs and require that bachelor's. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome. And okay, here's Dr. Wilson. Dr. Wilson, we have a question for you about our faculty. And the question is, what is the background of our faculty at Ball State? Do they all have PhDs in ABA, or are they all BCBAs? What are generally the background for the faculty at Ball State?
All graduate level faculty does have a PhD or a doctorate of some sort. I apologize, I'm not turning my video on because I keep getting disconnected, but yes, so for graduate level courses, they would have a doctorate. For undergrad, there are some individuals that teach that just have their master's degree. For the ABA program, all of the instructors are behavior analysts, but if you're taking the special education program or one of the other autism programs or the ASL program, they would not be behavior analysts necessarily.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. And just as a reminder, we're answering your questions in the order that they're received in the Q&A box. So we are hoping that we can get to your questions as soon as we can, because we have quite a few questions in here. And our next question is let's have Ashley answer this next question. For the spring semester, we have a question here. Will we be only accepted after December 26th, or will we be admitted before that if our application is in? So in terms of how that acceptance, how long that will be going into before the start of the spring semester, if we can shed a little bit of light on that.
Yes, we will have you accepted prior to the start of classes. This is why I tell all of my prospects, you want to try to get that application in as soon as you can, because that application process does take time. It has to go through many different hands. So the sooner you get it in, the better. Also, another thing that plays into the length of time it takes is, are you paying attention to your email? So, if you are missing something, we will let you know. And what typically happens is, if we don't have some requested materials from you, your application is put on hold. So if you're ever wondering, why is it taking so long? You might be missing some application materials. So that kind of, can sometimes delay that process. But yes, we try to get everyone admitted before classes start, because we want to give you time to get situated, to accept your admission, to meet with your student success specialist prior to the start of the semester. This is where you're going to get situated with class, learn about your program, things like that, actually get you registered for classes, as well as, make sure everything is in place. Get those textbooks, things like that, so that you start your first day of class, not feeling super stressed. So I would say the sooner you get it in, the better. But once again, it's kind of hard to tell you like how quickly that process is going to happen because it has to go through so many hands. And also another thing I'd like to point out is we're coming up on those holidays. So definitely consider that as you are submitting your applications.
Thank you, Ashley. Our next question is for Micah. One student wants to know, how many hours of work are they expected to put in a course during the week?
On average, and this will vary student to student, just as depending how quick you absorb the material, if there's some familiarity with it already. But typically the department recommends 10 to 15 hours per course per week. So that's why we don't recommend more than 2 courses a semester, because that can really turn into almost another full-time job in and of itself. So that's kind of the good guideline to go by as you're planning your schedule and your work-life school balance. Thank you for checking. That's definitely important to consider.
Thank you, Micah. And our next question is that from a student is that since that we don't require a thesis, is there a capstone project that needs to be done or something in place of a thesis in order to graduate with the master's degrees from the program? Can you tackle that question, Ashley?
Absolutely, I can. There is no capstone project either. As far as like graduating from your program, what we're looking for is that, have you completed all the course requirements? Do you have a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.0? Have you applied to graduate? So that is what we are looking for in order to graduate from your programs. Also, this is a great opportunity. As a graduate student here at Ball State, we are expecting you to maintain at least a 3.0 cumulative GPA. This keeps you in good academic standing as a graduate student. And also, like I mentioned, that is how you graduate.
Thank you, Ashley. Our next question is, if I do not pass a course, will I be placed on academic probation? Will I be able to repeat the course? What happens if I do not pass a course in the program? Micah, would you be able to address that question?
Absolutely. There are a couple layers to that question that I'll unpack for you. Anytime you drop below 3.0 GPA, we do have academic probation. And the nice thing about that is it gives you a chance to get back above that required 3.0 threshold. So at that point, you'll have 9 credits to bring your GPA back up above that 3.0. Now, the class itself that you do not pass, you can retake, but you are only allowed to earn a grade for a course twice. So if you're going to retake a course, you always want to make sure that maybe you want to step down to just 1 course or work with your student success specialist, because that second attempt that you get a grade on it would be your last attempt that you can take it. But yeah, and certain courses require a B or better just because they're prerequisite courses for later in the program. Other courses can be passed with a C as long as you maintain that 3.0. And that's something else your specialist can go over with you, just so you're aware of the expectations throughout the program.
Thank you, Micah. We have a next question about BCBA supervisors. And this student would like to know if it's possible that they can switch BCBA supervisors if they end up finding a new place of employment during their program and collecting their hours for the BCBA examination.
Actually, if Dr. Wilson doesn't mind, I would like to turn that question over to her.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you are actually encouraged to use multiple supervisors. So if you start with one and then switch to another, that's okay. You would just re-sign the contract and change your paperwork over. If you work with multiple supervisors at one site, that's okay as well. And like I said, it is actually encouraged.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Okay, now the next question is, that was just answered. Moving along here, lots of questions to parse through. Ashley, what is the email address that students can send their transcripts to?
So it would be admissions with an S at bsu.edu. Also, while it's my turn, I wanted to double check the BCBA first time pass rate for Ball State, because I know they've updated their numbers, and we are actually at 66% first time pass rate. So sorry about that.
Thank you. Our next question is an interesting question. The question reads, when we're taking our courses at Ball State Online, will we have access to our professors via email and Zoom if we ever to have questions or concerns about those specific courses?
Absolutely. When you begin the course, you'll have the course syllabi, and each instructor will be different on how they prefer to communicate with you, but you certainly have email, and then Canvas will be where your courses are. That's the learning management system we use, and you can communicate with your instructors through Canvas as well. And then some of them may also provide a cell phone number or office phone, and you may be able to schedule meetings with them over Zoom as well. Certainly check that syllabus and ask your instructor should you have any questions. And then you can also check with your advisor as well if you're not sure how to reach the instructor or if you have any issues connecting with them.
Thank you, Micah. The next question has to do with transfer credits. And the question reads, can I transfer credits into the Master's in Special Education program or the Master's in Applied Behavior Analysis program from another institution? Would you be able to answer that question, Ashley?
Sure, I can. So typically when it comes to transfer credits, I like to have an individual conversation with my applicants, with my prospects about that. But I can kind of give you just some quick information, and then I would recommend that you follow up directly with your student success specialist about that. So for the Master's in Special Education, you can actually transfer in up to 9 credits of graduate level coursework. Now, in order to do that, per graduate school policy, these are the requirements. And Micah, feel free to jump in if I miss any. But with these courses, they have to be graduate level courses. So no undergrad courses can come in. These courses cannot have been used towards another degree. They have to show a letter grade of at least a B or higher. And they cannot be more than 6 years old by the time you complete the master's. Also too, what we typically do is we can take a look, we can kind of give you an initial review. We can take your unofficial transcripts, look at them and say, this is what would transfer over. But keep in mind, we cannot guarantee transfer credits until we have an official transcript on file. That is a requirement of the graduate school. For the Master's in ABA, it's a little bit more tricky and a little bit harder to explain. For the Master's in ABA, because it's a set curriculum with really no wiggle room, really the only courses that we could transfer in would be courses from an institution that has a verified course sequence. And typically we accept a 3-credit ethics course from a 4th or 5th edition VCS or a 3-credit self-contained concepts and principles course from, once again, an institution with a verified course sequence. For those of you that are interested in transfer credits for the Master's in ABA, please reach out to your student success specialist about that specifically, just because that one's a little bit more complicated. And also the same requirements apply as far as getting those in there. Micah, do you have anything to add to that?
No, you're exactly right on that. And that's an individual conversation with your specialist if you're looking at the master's in ABA. A lot of times, if you do feel like you have a lot of credits, but you're interested in ABA, you may pursue the master's in special education just so you can get those transfer credits in. But then the other courses would still be the verified course sequence with us, and you could still do our graduate certificate in ABA. But again, it's very individualized on a case-to-case basis. So definitely a good opportunity for a one-on-one discussion with your advisor. And we're always happy to go over that with you.
Thank you. We have a career question here about a student who's wondering if they would like to become a BCBA working in an in-home or in a clinic setting in the ABA field. Which degree it would be recommended, a Master of Arts in Applied Behavior Analysis or a Master of Special Education with the ABA focus?
If you're intending to work in-home or in a clinic and not in the school setting, then the Masters of Arts in ABA would be recommended. The Masters in Special Education with then the graduate program or an emphasis in behavior analysis is great for a school setting, but you will get more information related to and a better practicum experience if you align with the Masters of ABA for home and center-based services.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Our next question is, when and how will I know if I'm admitted to the program? Let's see, let's have Micah take this question.
When you apply, you'll be part of the applicant portal. So always be sure and check your email, and you'll get notifications through there as there's been changes to your application. So this goes back to what Ashley mentioned a little bit ago. If you haven't heard anything, it may be because you're missing some material or there's something else our admissions office is waiting on. But keep an eye on your email, and you'll get an email notification that there's been an update to your applicant portal, and that'll let you know when you've been accepted. Now, if you haven't seen any updates for a while, you're always welcome to reach out to either our admissions office. You can use that same email address, admissions@bsu.edu, or you can contact 765-285-GRAD, or you can reach out to your student success specialist as well, and we can check on where you're at in the process. But definitely keep an eye on the email address that you used when you submitted your application, because communication will be sent through there.
And to add to that, what Micah said, also just note that you will get an answer either way. Whether you've been accepted, whether you've been denied, you will get an answer either way. Don't worry, we're not going to ghost you. We actually want to stay in communication with you as much as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Ashley.
Thank you. Our next question is, what are the benefits of having a graduate certificate or doing a graduate certificate with the Masters in ABA? Would you be able to answer that question, Ashley?
Sure. So I get this question a lot, especially from my master's in ABA students that are interested in maybe adding on the certificate in ABA as well as a certificate in autism or one or the other. Even those that are pursuing the master's in special education, maybe with a particular focus area, why would I want that certificate? So the way that I explain it is really what it is it is additional documentation of a particular focus area that you have. So it's not necessarily like a professional certification or anything like that, but like I said, it is additional documentation to go along with your diploma. So something that can be added to your professional portfolio, your resume, things like that. Sometimes I have students that simply want them because they have a nice office, or they have, at home, they want to hang them up to show like, here is my focus area.
Thank you, Ashley. We have another question about accommodations, and this student would like to know if they have any sort of learning disability or something that they need accommodations for. Is there any sort of help or accommodation that can be available to that student going through a program if they have a medical condition or of some sort? Micah, would you be able to address that question?
I certainly would, and really appreciate you asking. Going back to the services we provide for online students, our disability services office, that is what they are there for. So you can certainly connect with them or reach out to your student success specialist, and we can help you in making that connection. But they'll meet with you and assess your needs and work with you on any accommodations that are needed. All of our offices here, between our student success specialists and other services, we're here to ensure that you're successful. So we'll help you in any way that we can, and that's what they are there for.
Thank you, Micah. Our next question has to do with funding their education, and the student would like to know if there are any scholarship opportunities or any opportunities for funding their education at Ball State Online. Ashley, would you be able to take that question?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, because I get that question a lot, even from current students, is how do I pay for my education, or what assistance is out there? I always refer my students back to the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office, because they are a wealth of information. They have the most up-to-date information and resources that you can use. Also, there is a page, and I'm sure your student success specialist would be happy to send you a link if you're interested, but actually our Financial Aid and Scholarships Office does have a page where you can look into different scholarships that are available to you, things like that. Also too, as far as like student success specialists and going back to our Canvas advising communities, if we ever hear that there is a scholarship available to our students, that is where we are going to be sharing that information with students so that you have that opportunity. So definitely that comes to being with that student success specialist, is always sharing that additional support for you. So definitely follow up with Financial Aid and Scholarships. Ask your student success specialist about a link to that page. And then, like I said, we would make sure, if you were admitted to the program and you were a student, we would be sharing, any and all information on ways to help you pay for your education.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with the GRE, and the student would like to know if they have taken the GREs previously to try to get into another program. Can they use those same GRE scores for admission to Ball State? Micah?
And I believe, again, Ashley or Rory both can feel free to chime in on this. I believe the scores have to be within the last year that they're able to be used for admission. Do either of you remember on that for sure?
Yeah, there's generally an expiration date for your GRE scores. So definitely once you set the GREs and you're able to view your scores, you would see an expiration date for those scores. And at the end of the expiration date, then you would need to retake the GRE scores. And then that will have its own expiration date again. But as long as you take the GREs and you make those scores, you can use those GRE scores to use and to send to any institution that you would like that would require those GRE scores, as long as you are sending those GRE scores and they have not been expired as yet. But again, you can always check on those expiration dates on your GRE portal.
Rory, I just want to let you know that we are at 8:20. So we're going to need to start wrapping up in the next 10 minutes or so.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. We'll just take a few more questions to close us off here. And this next question reads, if I'm a registered behavior technician, an RBT, can I backdate my direct hours in order to accrue that for the BCB examination? So I believe this student previously worked as an RBT in the field for some time, and then when they start the program, they would like to know if they can use those hours that they worked previously towards that exam. Dr. Wilson?
Absolutely. That is a great question. Unfortunately, no, the requirements for supervision for an RBT are different than the requirements for supervision towards certification. One of the main requirements for supervision towards certification is that you do have to, and it's a requirement that's written in there, you do have to start supervision on or after the date that you start coursework. So because you haven't done coursework yet, none of the hours prior would count. RBT supervision is done at 5% every month. BCBA supervision does have different requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Our next question is, how soon after applying can we expect an admission decision?
Again, that will vary on a number of factors. Depends on how quick that you get all of your materials in, how many students may be ahead of you in the queue. As Ashley mentioned previously, there's a number of different hands that your application needs to go through. So I know our admissions office works diligently to get an admission decision back as quickly as possible. And as Ashley mentioned, we won't ghost you. I mean, you'll know either way, but it can vary. There's no set guideline, but we will always respond as quickly as possible. But again, we want to reiterate, get your applications in quickly, especially with the fall here, since you do have those holidays coming up, just to speed things along before we really get down to crunch time right before the semester.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with elective courses. And the student would like to know if they can take elective courses in American Sign Language, for example, together with a master's in ABA. Do they have that option to take elective courses with their master's in ABA? Ashley?
So going back to the master's in applied behavior analysis, it is a set curriculum. So the 10 courses that you see when you look at the course catalog, those are the 10 courses that you have to take. So if you're wanting to take some additional classes in ASL, that would be adding to those 10 that you would already have to complete for the master's in ABA. Now, if you're an individual who maybe you want to dabble in a little bit of applied behavior analysis and dabble in a little bit of ASL, then you might want to look into the master's in special education, because with that, you do have the ability to kind of, I know that some of our student success specialists say, basically make your own, kind of create your own program. So I've had students, they do a mixture of ABA courses, maybe a couple of EBD courses, things like that. So definitely, if you're wanting to look into your options, I would definitely follow up with your student success specialist about that and say, here are my interests. These are the classes I'd really want to take. What would be the best program for me to pursue?
Thank you, Ashley. And as we're wrapping up, I will take one or two more questions here. I'm scrolling down here. Question is, can you earn a certificate without also earning a master's degree?
You certainly can. You can enroll into our certificate program in any of the certificates just to earn that certificate. And students may do that because they're interested in one of those areas. Again, if you're doing just a standalone certificate, it would not be eligible for financial aid. So that is a consideration there you need to be mindful of. But yes, you can certainly take one or more of the certificate programs as a standalone option. But they are halfway to a master's. So if you don't already have a master's, keep that in mind as well, especially if you're considering more than one certificate. You could just go on and finish that degree as well.
Thank you, Micah. This other question has to do with transcripts, and this student is asking, if they currently hold a master's degree, do they need to send in their master's degree transcripts as well as their bachelor's degree transcripts for admission?
That answer would be yes, because we require official transcripts from all degree and certificate granting institutions. So if you have a bachelor's degree as well as a master's degree, we will need both of those official transcripts.
Thank you. And this question is, are there any undergraduate course requirements for the master's programs? Micah, would you be able to answer that?
I would. And the nice thing is there is not. I know there are some different programs out there that maybe require some undergraduate coursework, any prerequisites that you're going to need are going to be contained within your program. And so that's why maybe some courses have to be taken in a specific order, but you can come to either of our program, Masters in Special Education, Masters in ABA, or any of the certificates, regardless of your background. You could have had a degree, undergraduate in business or social work, and decide that you're interested in ABA, and this is a great starting point for you.
Thank you, Micah. Ashley, we have a student that's asking, must they take 2 courses per semester only, or can they take 3 or even 4 courses per semester in their program?
Yes, you can take more, but like we've mentioned, if you're working full-time or close to it, we recommend taking no more than 2 courses a semester. But yes, if you want to take 3 or 4, you can. Just note that when we get into that 4 course range, you're looking at the course load of a student who is not working at all. They are just focusing on their education. So if you have a particular plan in mind about, how many classes you want to take or how quickly you want to complete the program, definitely communicate that to your student success specialist.
Thank you. And one more question here. We have a question about graduate certificates. And the question reads, are we able to get more than 1 graduate certificate with the Masters in ABA? Michael, would you address that question?
Absolutely. And yes, you are. As mentioned previously, the certificates in both ABA and autism will line up directly with the coursework contained within the Masters in ABA program. So you could earn one or both of those certificates as part of the Masters in ABA without any additional coursework. Now, that doesn't mean you can't look at other certificates as well, but those would require additional coursework. So if you're doing the Masters in ABA and you're interested in American Sign Language or emotional behavior disorders, you can look into those, but just understand it would require extra coursework. But you're not prohibited from adding additional certificates at all. And any questions on that, certainly ask one of the advisors and we'll help you with that.
Thank you, Mike. And I think we have time for one final question. Ashley, with a student would like to know if the classes for the ABA program are offered every semester or if they're only offered in specific semesters.
Oh, great question to add on. So for those of you that are interested in our ABA and autism courses, whether you're pursuing the Masters in ABA, you're pursuing the Masters in Special Education, certificate in ABA, certificate in autism, those ABA and autism courses are offered every single semester. So good news for you individuals. So with that being said, being that I'm the host for tonight, I have to be the bad guy and close us out. Thank you so much, Rory, for being such a great chat box and Q&A host. Micah, thank you for co-hosting and presenting with me. I really, really appreciate it. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to give that faculty perspective to our students and also to show our prospects that, our faculty are very much involved in their success in their program. So thank you so much for that. Micah, would you please close us out with our last slide?
Absolutely. So with the closing information here, we do ask, if you don't mind, to complete our graduate school presentation evaluation survey. And we'll have a link put up right there in the chat box. Thank you, Rory, for posting that on there. And then just to remind you about the application fee waiver, the text listed there, DOSL Special Ed Webinar 10/6/2021. That is what you would type in when you complete your application, where it asks about a fee waiver. And we will be following up with students who have attended today. You'll be getting a recording of this webinar here, but please follow up with us if you have additional questions, if your questions did not get answered. We know we have limited time and we want to get to everybody, but we're still here to help in any way we can. So don't hesitate to send us an email or give us a call, and we're happy to discuss things with you one-on-one.
Just a shout out to all of you who have attended today. We really appreciate your time and your interest in our various programs. So thank you again for your time, and we look forward to seeing those applications come through. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much.